Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for showing up and being here to learn more and find our pathways to a better fire-adapted future all over the place. You know, everything that we have seen for the last couple of days has clearly indicated that we're in a heap of hurting, right? The future is not looking bright as far as fire goes. Climate, fuels. But you've also seen a lot about how wildland-urban interface residents can really do quite a bit to help the survivability of their homes. On one hand, it's a very simple problem. You've seen this before. Start at the house and work out, right? That's really where it all starts. It starts at the house with the house walls and the gutters and the roofs and all the stuff that Jana talked about, and then moves out to 100 feet. And that will do a tremendous amount of stuff. So this is pretty simple, right? Well, on the other hand, there's some significant challenges that we have in front of us, right? Homeowners have to really, truly understand exactly what it is that they need to do. And this is not easy for everybody. What is this defensible space thing? Does this mean I have to remove all my trees? Oh my gosh, I love my tree. Right? It's not easy stuff, and we need to make sure that they understand how this works. And then they need to take the action to do it. And that is sometimes pretty difficult to do for a lot of reasons, not least of which is that it can be very, very expensive. If you have a home in an area that was in the burn area, or I'm in an area where we're really devastated by sudden oak death, well, in those areas, it can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars just to remove dead and dying trees. So that's a significant challenge. Home hardening, what Jana talked about earlier, critical, much less understood by the public in general, and a really hard sell, because you start talking about home hardening and their eyes get big and I can't afford to replace my siding. It's a terrifying prospect. But there's a lot that people can do that are workaround solutions for a lot of the problems. So we really need to get the word out about that. And retrofitting is entirely voluntary. There's no agency that's going to come and inspect you and tell you that you need a new roof or new vents. This is something that homeowners have to learn and accept on their own. So how do we get that word out? Demographics can be a challenge. In Sonoma County, our rural population is aging much faster than the population in the urban core, because those of us who are rural residents of Sonoma County bought our property back when it was affordable, right? And we're still there. So that makes it very difficult for people to do their defensible space because they're getting older. So, you know, we've been really successful at this firefighting thing. Since the 60s or so, we've been putting out 90 to 98% of fires at less than 25 acres, right? We've heard that over and over. That's awesome. That was really good, except for that it's kind of left us with a legacy of an awful lot of fuel out there in the wildlands, which is causing some issues. And at the same time, as we heard earlier, we have, what, 72% more homes in the wildland-urban interface since the 60s? We know that this is a problem. All of the fire agencies in the county have known that this was a problem, and a lot of us have done a lot of significant outreach and education to the public. This is a slide that I stole directly out of a presentation that I've given over and over and over and over many, many times. This is the Hanley Fire, 1964, which everybody knows about now. Didn't used to be the case when I threw this slide up here, I can tell you that. And here we're looking at this area down here in the bottom, north of Santa Rosa. And this talk about the WUI, envision that slide that Ben just showed of Fountain Grove. And this would have looked pretty much the same. This would have been open grazing land and not a whole lot of houses on it. And things changed drastically on October 9th when we had near total destruction in this area. This is so hard to look at for those of us who've been really caring about getting people on board with us in the wildland-urban interface. I've done a whole lot of outreach out there as Fire Safe Sonoma, Rincon Valley Fire, over and over and over, CAL FIRE, presentations, inspections, all kinds of stuff. So how well are we doing that job? How well is that message getting across? Could we have done more? These questions keep me up at night. Now, oddly, this one never made it into my slideshow before, right? This is like my Monty Python. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, right? You know, this was a surprise that this fire made it across the Great Highway 101 fuel break and burned into Coffey Park, doing this kind of terrible, devastating damage in that area. It's very hard to even know what to say about that. The conditions were so catastrophic. So can we do anything about this in these tight neighborhoods? Should we be planning how do we handle this? I think this is a question that we really need to have more dialogue about amongst agencies, using best available science. There's a lot of science that should be filtering down to the agency level, and planners and everybody else needs to get involved. But even with destruction like this in areas like Coffey Park and Fountain Grove, there were survivors. This is an awesome example. Had a lot of the stuff that people have been talking about. Had a good position on the slope. Clearly not made of wood much, right? Good stucco house, stucco fences, walls in front of it. Hill behind it, really significant. But this was a survivor. And this is the kind of image that we really have to start putting out there. These homes can be built to survive in most conditions. Maybe not all conditions, but in most conditions. So this is super important to get this message out and allow people to understand that this is what they can control. We're terrified of fire. I am terrified of this fire season. I'm absolutely terrified. The only thing that I can control is my own stuff. I can control my house. I can control my 100 feet. So that gives property owners back some control if they could just move forward to take advantage to some of the stuff we can do. Jack Cohen, who was referenced earlier, I absolutely love this guy. This is a slide that I got from him like way back in the way back, like 2005 or something. And so he was just talking about like, how do wildland-urban interface fire disasters occur? Well, you start with severe fire conditions. We had that. Then you get a wildland fire. We got that, right? Did we ever? And then you get home ignitions, widespread home ignitions. We got that. Suddenly, we had fire protection resources, which were completely overwhelmed by what was going on. All we were doing was saving lives, right? Reduced effectiveness, completely reduced effectiveness because we were only concentrating on saving lives. And many destroyed homes. And the point that Jack Cohen, who was wonderful, just retired, wanted to make is that if we take home ignitions out of this equation, if homes don't ignite, we don't have a wildland-urban interface issue anymore. We just have a wildland fire, which we can now begin to allow to return to its natural role in the California ecosystem, which is why I got up here, because I care about ecosystems, I care about fish, I care about stuff like that. So this is, to my mind, the hope for us to move towards a more fire-resilient future is to deal with the house first. We've got to deal with the house first so that we can let fire burn in our environments without threat of taking out our houses, because that's always going to be our first thing that we have to protect as firefighters is your lives and your homes. So yes, I'm a little passionate about this message. So how can we do this? What are some motivators, right? Well, there's two approaches. We got your basic carrots and your basic sticks, right? Now, I'm truthfully, at heart, I'm kind of a carrot kind of guy, right? I like doing the education stuff, and yeah, boola, right? But I started working with this inspection program and very rapidly saw, golly, this seems to work much better than me going out and saying, look, you can do this. Do you want to join up? Right? So regulation works good. So what do we got for that? We got defensible space regulation, right? So Chief Nichols talked a lot about Public Resource Code 4291. And then you have like local resources which can be brought into bear. Sonoma County is moving forward with Sonoma County Code Chapter 13A, which is kind of a cool thing because it addresses one of the great vulnerabilities of 4291, is that 4291 was written not to protect the forest, the house from the forest fire, but the forest from the house fire. So 4291 doesn't address unimproved parcels. And there are places in this county where that's a huge, huge, huge problem. And so you can pass a local ordinance to address those, and that's what we did, and we did some inspections. Inspections can kind of be of two types, right? You can have an inspection that is mostly educational in intent, where you go out and you write them up the thing and you talk to the homeowners and you give them but you're not going to take them and cut the stuff down and bill them for it, right? That's a whole nother story. Inspection followed by abatement, extremely effective motivator. Even inspection programs have a bunch of carrots with them. Sarah McCaffrey, who's going to talk a little bit later, talks a lot about how important it is that residents get information from a trusted source, preferably in a blue uniform. So you get that with inspection programs. They work really well that way. And providing incentives really helps too. So if we can do chipper programs or special needs assessments to help people, that really helps. This is hard to do in a regulatory environment like we have in Sonoma County. Basically, if you look at this slide, all the colored stuff, that's all the state responsibility area where 4291 applies. The white stuff in the middle, that's all local responsibility area where it doesn't apply. So different regulations apply in different places. In Sonoma County, we have somewhere around 38 fire agencies. I'm never really sure what the number is today. That's a lot of fire agencies to coordinate towards change. So we really need to start working towards getting everybody on the same page. A lot of these rural areas are served by volunteer fire companies like mine, aging volunteers, reducing numbers of volunteers, issues. So what agency is going to inspect in the SRA? If we do inspections, will it be local, will it be state? What standards shall we use? Who has the staffing for this, right? Who has the trained staffing to go out and do this inspection? Is the public going to like it? Maybe not so much. And how will these programs be paid for, right? That's the big question. This is a big deal. This is expensive, right? So we got to figure out, is this enough of a priority that we're going to push this kind of thing forward by providing funding through special taxes or however we do it? Super important, super complicated. Okay, what have we got in place now? Well, we're moving towards that. But now what we have is some really awesome other stuff. I'm moving into the Fire Safe Council side, putting on my carrot hat now. So there's tons of awesome education programs out there. Ready, Set, Go, Living With Fire, IBHS, like Yana talked a lot about Dr. Steve Quarles. I'm also a groupie of Dr. Quarles. We also have awesome, awesome, awesome allies out in the fire service. And we have the resource conservation districts, and we have watershed groups, and we have community forest groups, and we have a million different people who are concerned with how do we make this better, right? This photograph is an awesome meeting that we did this weekend to work on a community wildfire protection plan for the Upper Mark West watershed group. And we had Chief Nichols there, and we had local fire there, Cindy Foreman there in the back. We had volunteer. Oh, it was awesome. 40 people there. It was a great, great meeting. Residents are the key here on this side. Residents are who we need. We need them to show up. So residents care deeply about their homes and the communities, right? They understand the community's needs and local environment and why that's important to them. They have stupendous skills and knowledge. The woman who organized that Mark West meeting, it was awesome. Penny, awesome. Couldn't have never done it myself. And they want to do something, right? Everybody's scared and they want to do something. So, all it takes is like one community spark plug, add a little bit of connection, put them together, and what do you get? You get a Fire Safe Council. Yay, that's what we want, right? Grassroots, community-based. They can be as large as a county-wide, which is what Fire Safe Sonoma is, or as small as a very small neighborhood, whatever works, with the objective of helping create local communities that are better adapted to wildfire-prone environments. Oops. Fire safe councils do education and outreach. Peer-to-peer works really good. It's very effective. They can help with planning, such as community wildfire protection plans. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And they can plan for and try to get community fuels reduction programs going. Community wildfire protection plans are a really important part of this deal. They came out of the Healthy Forest Restoration Act of 2003. And they have to be collaboratively developed, so you have to have everybody in the room to write these things. So you need, your federal agencies, if you have any, which we don't have a lot of in Sonoma County. Federal, state, local agencies of all sorts, plus the residents of the area, so that you can prioritize strategies and identify funding solutions. So these are a huge tool. Fire Safe Sonoma is right now working on creating a template that'll be easy for communities to use. Out there in the world to create these on their own. So we're doing the template. We're ramping up our outreach capacity as much as we can, working on partnerships with the UCCE and the RCD and all kinds of people to help get the message out. What do we need? We need you people. We need you people to start making fire safe councils and coming to our meetings and bringing your ideas so that we get you and you get us and everybody's happy. We also need funding, so www.firesafesonoma.org. PayPal. So help us help you. Let's work together to start at the house and work out. Thank you.
So I'm a member of, and I spoke yesterday too about the issue that we have in our community. I lived on Wikiup Bridgeway, which is off of Northwest Springs Road. We lost our bridge. If that bridge had burned prior to most of my neighbors escaping, it would have been much more tragic. And we had utility companies open 2 easements into our property, and we are now experiencing the, I don't want to have that open, I'm going to put a chain across it kind of thing. And I was approached by one of the neighbors in the neighboring community about possibly having a community-wide meeting to discuss those easements, because they also only have one way in and one way out. How do we go about, now that all of these neighbors are displaced, we can't drop something in their mailboxes and say, come to this meeting. How would you recommend we try to start the dialogue for this community in light of this problem?
Wow. Finding those folks, I think they're probably findable. I'm not sure how you would do that. I would say the more people are looking, the better. So the more you can start to grow that community group and bring as many people, bring in your local fire department as soon as possible, because they'll be a big help to you. If the challenge is going to be finding them, that is going to be difficult. It's probably going to be challenging to get them to meetings. But I think people are very receptive at this point, because it was such a tragic event. I think it's a little easier to get traction with people saying, yeah, I guess we could use that road for evacuation. So it's worth a try, and getting everybody in the same room and pointing out the risks in the area is a great first step.